Right. So tonight we're moving to the next Parami, and it's the sixth talk in the course on the Paramis, and it's the Wisdom Parami. And a nice little quote that has been going around says, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived." And it's quite a nice description of the Wisdom Parami. So wisdom is panya in the Pali. Vidya means knowing things more deeply. You can also regard it as being right view, the first of the Eightfold Path. I think closer in the Hebrew, or in the ancient Hebrew, it would tend to be Bina rather than Chokhmah. In terms of the Kabbalah, it would tend to be Bina, and rather than Chokhmah. It has a feminine quality of knowing under the surface, touching things deeply, knowing which is not just left brain, it's right brain and left brain together. So we have to understand first of all that what is avidya, what is not wisdom, is the usual habit of allowing our knowing mind, our consciousness, to be captured by objects, by structures, by labels, by constructions. And the result of that is we, in ignorance, get stuck with the sense that the world is a fact, and we know what it is, that the world is the way we think it is, and that can be the world inside, such as a thought about ourselves, like judgmental thought, or it can be the world outside, such as a tree, or any object. This sense of fixation that the world is given, it's a fact, it's what we know, there are laws of nature. Usually it goes with the world is a problem and the world is a threat, and we somehow have to fix it or control it. That's the consequence of avidya, of non-wisdom, of seeing it without deeply looking. But so panya or vidya is not just a deeper knowing, it's a knowing that frees us. And that's important, because the difference between panya as the wisdom mind in the Dharma and what we normally regard as wisdom in the conventional sense, or chokhmah in the conventional sense, is that panya is a wisdom that frees us, that liberates us. It's a liberating wisdom. It's not a neutral, philosophical, conceptual wisdom, although it sometimes goes together, of course. I had an interesting couple of days with Charles Genot, who came to stay with me in Klil, and he's really interested to read the existentialists again. And I haven't been reading existential philosophers, Sartre and so on, for like 40 years. But all of a sudden he pointed out how the existential philosophy actually has elements that are designed to free us. And it's good to point that out, that wisdom is about seeing that frees us, that liberates us, that transforms our world, that liberates us from the need to control or be controlled, or the small mind that's afraid, that is limited, that feels imprisoned in a world of given facts and boundaries and borders, such as me and the world. So it's not about information, it's not functional knowledge, it's not concepts, which endless concepts about life, which just generate papancha, as more busyness, more thinking about. It's a much more an expanded view of things, without boundaries. Another word that is used in the Christian or pre-Christian world is gnosis, gnostic, and it's a deeper knowing, which has realization in it. Tovanot. It is always connected with realizing something deeply about getting closer to the way things really are, closer to the Dharma, closer to the truth of things, closer to, you would say, mamashut, the reality of things, which is not the way that my brain is built to see. It is something deeper than that. It's like deeply listening. It's a deep knowing of the way things are directly, and not through the filter of concepts and conditioning and education. It's a deep sense of a liberated wow. The wow. The aha. And it always is a knowing that connects us with things. So, for example, when we are walking in a retreat in Indore, and we're just walking, and we're thinking, oh, that tree is a tree, it's a pine tree, and I'm walking past it. Okay, that's a normal thought. That is, I am doing something. There is an object called a pine tree. I gave it a label. I pass it by. It's all rather defined. But what about a sense that the tree and myself and the earth that I walk on are shared? That we're all participating in one moment of togetherness. And I'm realizing that I belong to the tree belongs to me, we all belong together. I'm walking on the same earth. We are sharing this planet, or we're sharing this space, and I can't anymore define so much the difference between me and the tree. And I don't even know what this tree is. It's just a sense of being joined and aware and awake in this moment together. That would be the difference. You see? Two kinds of knowing. And it is more right brain than usual. The Western culture is dominated by left brain. Mostly, when I think about my education in what was supposed to be a very good school in England, and then after that, years in Oxford University, and after that, years being a scientist in the National Institute of Medical Research in England. And then I find, looking back on that it's a huge effort to pump up the left brain. Just non-stop, pumping the left brain and forgetting the right brain. The meditation that we are practicing, if you look at the brain during meditation, there's lots of science about this, it is giving some light to the right brain as well. And the wisdom mind is a balance between the left brain and the right brain. The right brain being more inclusive, less descriptive, less defined, less chopping the world into little pieces and us as the observer of those pieces, another piece, and description and language. And the right brain is more global, is more a sense of being, is more sense of undefined but open awareness, panoramic awareness, you could call it. The two go together, like that famous quote from Padmasambhava, who said, keep your vision as wide as the sky, that's the right brain, but sieve, masanen, sieve your actions as fine flour, that's the left brain. And I remember Ramana Maharshi, people were saying about him, and in the pictures, the films of him, his total, his ultimate space that he was in, a non-dual space. But if a piece of one grain of rice fell from his plate, he would pick it up carefully and put it back. So both are together. It's not that you have to become obsessed with right brain. It's a sense of right and left brain together. Sometimes it's very easy for us to forget and go to one extreme or the other, right brain and left brain. And sometimes people have come to my vegetable garden and said, wow, what a beautiful garden, lots of food, and it's lots of beautiful, and everything is growing, and so on. And while they're saying how beautiful it is, they're not noticing that they're stepping on small little shtilim. And this is right brain, left brain. Wake up. Mindfulness is both. Where are you really, and watch who and where what you are, and keep the vision fine, great, open, yes, but and if we look at thoughts, for example, that trouble us, as an example, it can be, for example, a critical thought, a judgmental thought, a thought that gives us trouble, a thought that's just silly and stupid, that doesn't seem to go anywhere. Avidya, the non-wisdom, would give it belief, would construct something around that thought, would give it power over us, such as a judgmental thought, I'm no good, it doesn't work for me, I don't succeed, I can't manage, life is too much, life is always doing that to me. This kind of narratives of going down on ourselves, making us small. The avidya gives it belief. These thoughts, they make constructions, and we find ourselves saying, life is like that. That's avidya, non-wisdom. Life is like that. I am like that. Whereas vidya, the wisdom, would say, well, conditions are creating that thought. The conditions include conditioning that I've received maybe since childhood, also that's creating that thought, and the conditions that my senses see something in the world and that has reactions. And they're empty. It isn't anything, this thought. It's empty thing passing by, created by conditions and disappearing again. And that moment is liberating. And that's a wisdom view that liberates us from the control of that thought, a little bit at a time. It's empty, it passes by, it's like a cloud in the sky, it's come from conditions, and I don't need to construct anything around that thought. No permanent reality. As a parami, the wisdom parami, as I said, feeds all the other paramis. And that's like I gave the image, the very classic Tibetan image of the wisdom parami being the eye in the hand, and 5 other paramis are the fingers and the hand, and there's 6 paramis in the Mahayana or Tibetan tradition, but the most, in a way, key parami, the wisdom, is in the middle, the eye. For example, dana would be one of the paramis. Dana, we would say, is donation, is giving, is we give dana to somebody or something, we donate, we give. With wisdom, dana becomes a view of reality, of giving and receiving, that everything is giving and receiving to everything else. So I'm participating in a universe which is based on giving and receiving. That would be the wisdom eye. Feeding dana and taking it deeper. And seeing, for example, as I said, our life is dana. We are given our life, our body is dana. And we give it back. And giving, receiving. That would be a much deeper way that the eye of wisdom would illuminate dana. Or, for example, sila. You could say sila, as one of the paramis, is right living, is integrity, yoshra. But with the eye of wisdom, sila becomes much deeper. It becomes values which inspire the way we act in the world. The sila becomes the way, the quality of our actions. If they're helpful, they reduce suffering, they are beneficial to the world and ourselves. And it becomes a rightness given the wisdom eye that illuminates, lights up sila. What is makes karma change for us and for others. That would be the wisdom eye. Or determination. The wisdom eye on determination gives a beautiful sense of the right quality of flow of energy, of the highest motivation, that we can imagine. So, like I said before, that you can take it on a number of levels, and this is in the Mahayana tradition. They take all the paramis on 3 levels, and I said this before. So, the superficial level is what I mentioned up to now. It's not superficial, it's very, very important, but it's being able to look under the surface, being able to see things more deeply. It's a more right brain, a sense of being able to look at things as they really are. And like I said, projections, knowing how we project, or anger, what we talked about before, how to take anger to pieces and see that it's made of conditions, reactions, changes, and is fundamentally empty. So to take anger to pieces and be wise about it, that's one level. More subtle level of the wisdom parami would be really to begin to question everything connected to who we are. And, for example, our views of reality. The way I look at the tree is a view. I see it as a defined thing. That's a view. And it's not reality. And are they true? is it really true, what I'm seeing? Or is it just conditioned by what I've learnt, including an object? Is it helpful? On this more subtle level of wisdom, it's the world of tovanot, of insight. Insights about reality. Insights that free us. Moments of aha. Yeah, I see now. Those moments of the wisdom mind, a little more subtle. Thoughts. Really seeing what a thought is the wisdom mind in a more subtle way. That thought is just a moment of consciousness packed into a kind of a form, but it has no real solid nature. It is a moment of consciousness which we turn into a story. And seeing that is the more subtle level of wisdom. And there's an aspect of wisdom which is, in a way, the not knowing, the idiya. And that's really interesting. Because the left brain is always telling us we have to know. We have to know what's going on, we have to know what to do, we have to know the answer, we have to know who we are, we have to get on in life, and we're very, very busy trying to know. And there's another process, which is not knowing. Living with uncertainty. Even doubt and confusion. They can be really, really helpful at certain times to cut through the sense of, I have to know exactly. And those moments can be playful. I remember reading a little bit of Winnicott and how he was describing the way children grow. They're always on the boundary of the knowing or known and the unknown. And that's their play. And we are kind of filled the knowing from 99%, and then the unknown and the not knowing is so small. And we need to expand that. And you can call it the unknown, but you can also call it not knowing, living with uncertainty, living with out of the box, living playfully, living without conventions and muskamot, especially social ones. Living out of the box, living with questions, living with innocence, living the question. Well, one quote from a poet, American poet, says, "If it's not mysterious, it's not true." So living with the truth of things, which is always mysterious, or at least it's not defined and not held by the left brain knowing. And this leads to, it's very important in the Zen. In Zen practice, the unanswered question becomes really the main practice. The question that stops the mind in its tracks, that the mind can't deal with anymore, that the mind gives up, and then wisdom arises. And very often these koans, these Zen puzzles, go on and on and on and on. For years you just break the mind to pieces. The conventional knowing mind just can't cope anymore, And at the moment when the mind gives up, it sort of falls into a space of not knowing, which is a space of awareness without labels and without content and solid boundaries. It just gives up. It goes to another place, if you like, beyond the brain. In a way, you could say, you can't, the wisdom mind is also crazy. It has crazy wisdom. It's not sensible anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore. Life doesn't make sense. If we think we can understand life, let's stop. Undo it with a bit of crazy wisdom. Say, it doesn't make sense. Like, we can't contain life with our small mind that says, yes, I know what life is like this, and life is like that, and I have to do this, and this is right, and I have to be good this. Life doesn't fit any of these boxes. So the crazy wisdom would be a bit crazy. And a lot of Buddhists, in terms of the conventional world, you guys here, and all the people listening to this, might be seen as a little cuckoo. What's this? You should be, you go to the office at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's the reality, there isn't anything else, the rest is just blah blah blah. It's crazy wisdom would say life is impossible to understand, life is not contained in our concepts of it, we can't work it out. So let go into crazy wisdom, into beyond. It's difficult sometimes to see this. The Buddha didn't want to teach at the beginning because he said, it's just not, I can't do it. People are not going to understand anything of what I want to teach them. And the answer he got was, teach because there are some with little dust in their eyes, that there are some that will understand. But nevertheless, it's difficult to see beyond the box and out of the box of regular knowing. It's difficult to, the Dharma is not easy, it's not easy path. Realization, we might need time, a lot of effort sometimes, a lot of retreats before things open up more and more and the wisdom eye shines in us and through us. There is a quote from the Buddha that says, the wisdom is the eye that sees profound suchness. Profound suchness would be isness, kahut, thatness, would see but it's profound, the deep isness of things. That is it. That's the wisdom eye. So it's not easy to see that and to live like that, but it's certainly there for us. And it's about going beyond the constructions. It's about undoing the constructions. I want to read a quote of what the Buddha said when he first, his first words when he passed through the night of awakening. And his first words were, "For many lives I have wandered, looking for, but not finding, the house builder who caused my suffering. But now you are seen and you shall build no more. Your rafters, the beams that hold the roof, your rafters are dislodged. The ridge pole, the main pole holding the house, the ridge pole is broken. All craving is ended. My heart is as one with the unmade. Important sentence. My heart is as one with the unmade, unconstructed, lo banui. My heart is one with the lo banui, the not built, the not constructed. And the comment here is the Buddha's final realization was to discover that he had been believing in something that wasn't true. He had been deceived by what he calls the house builder, which are the structures of the mind, the me and the mine that we take so seriously. It's me that is feeling disappointed. It's my mood, my body, my mind. Having penetrated this with profound insight, it was understood. The main basis of the house was broken, suffering has ended. And from here on, he would stay at ease, in a state that is before and beyond all arising and ceasing. What is unmade, what is not born and died, and what is not dying. Something timeless, primal awareness. And if we look and if we ask ourselves, what is the mind at the deepest level, at the third level, if you like, of wisdom, it's this realization of the unmade, of the unconstructed. It's where the mind becomes shining, where awareness is everything, where everything is joined in awareness. And that is the deeper wisdom, or the deepest wisdom. In the suttas, there are many descriptions about this, of course, but one sutta which I really like gives a certain stage by stage, and says one of the conditions, the main condition for this is the experience of equanimity or steadiness or quietness, where you're quiet and steady in relation to the world and the things in the world, and gradually you become quiet and steady with everything as one. And from there you understand the unconstructed world, the world that is not constructed by any thought or any conditioning. And from the unconstructed, which is called atamayata, the unconstructed, the next stage is nibbana. From the place of non-construction, the next stage is nibbana, which is beyond any words. So we can just imagine the mind at that place of purity, of like a mirror, it's empty. It reflects the world. It's timeless. It's not born into anything. In the Mahayana tradition, this wisdom has 5 aspects. I just want to kind of mention it so you get a sense of what this wisdom is like in the world. The mirror is one image of this wisdom. The mirror is empty. It just reflects clearly the world. So our mind isn't anything. It's just reflecting what's happening. it isn't anything. There is something happening and the mind is reflecting what's happening. So that's the mirror. The second is discriminating. And discriminating is just what I said about the grain of rice. That Ramana Maharshi would know that the grain of rice fell. Is what I was saying about not walking on the little shtilim in the little seedlings in the vegetable garden. It's a wisdom that understands karma, that understands the way things work, that looks in the eyes of the world, that can look in the eyes of another person and see what's going on there. It's that seeing phenomena, it's mindfulness. It's being mindful, still mindful. The third quality is, you could call it the allness, the totality. There's something there is one. All the descriptions and definitions kind of break down. The separations break down. So I can no longer say I am different from the world. The world made me. I am the world. And I make the world. And the world makes me. It can't possibly be any other way. So this oneness, this sense of unity, it's in the Tibetan tradition it's called one taste. One taste. Tam echid. It's essence. Everything is, there's an essence to everything. And the fourth aspect of this wisdom is that it does things. In action, it moves things. It's not passive. With this wisdom of unity and of awareness and the mirror-like nature of mind, you go out in the world with a compassionate heart. You see others because you're not locked in yourself and the world, in duality. It's non-dual. From this non-dual place, your actions become more meaningful because you see immediately what's going on and your actions become guided by this sense of being one with the world. And naturally, the actions are different. So, part of wisdom is wisdom in action. It's not passive, neutral. It's belonging. The world and you are one, so every action is, in a way, the world is acting through you. And the fifth is the kind of endlessness of it all, the non-limit, unlimited suchness itself, no boundaries. So it's a very intense sense of being. It's intense. It's powerful. This wisdom. So I want to finish by reading the Heart Sutra, because the Heart Sutra, it's the most famous sutta in the whole of the Mahayana tradition. If you like, it's the most powerful, the most famous, in a way, the essence of the Mahayana tradition. And the Heart Sutra is called the Prajna Paramita Sutta. Paramita, the Parami, and Prajna is Panya in Sanskrit. So it's the Parami of Wisdom. So it's the sutta on the Parami of Wisdom, which is exactly the Parami we're talking about right now. That's the title, the Prajna Paramita Sutra. And it's the Heart Sutra, in other words. So I'm going to read it, and you can see that it's everything I was talking about in a very subtle way. It is very subtle, ultimate sutta. It's not easy to understand, although it is the sutta of the Mahayana tradition. But it's very subtle and very high in a way, and mysterious and interesting. So I can read it in English.